Hey, everybody. Morning. This is Roman Polnar coming to you live, Pillar 6 College Planning with this week's Financial Aid Wednesdays. So, welcome, everybody. If you're watching this live, well, you got the benefit of being able to ask me questions. So, if I'm going to go over anything that you want me to clarify, just ask. And if you're watching a replay, use the comments below, and I or a member of my team will get back to you. And the purpose of me doing these Financial Aid Wednesdays is to help all of you get more financial aid. Well, technically, we want you to get the most amount of financial aid that you possibly can to ultimately make college more affordable for yourselves as parents, as also for your kids. Because I don't think any of us want to really have them get out of college with a ton of debt. And we certainly want them to go through college. So, anyways, here we are. It is, December 22nd. This year just flew by seemingly in a blink of an eye, and I can't believe it's almost the end of the year. So um, I know that a lot of you are probably taking some time off, and you may not even want to listen to me right now, and that's okay. I'm not offended. But I also know that there are a lot of you whose kids have applied to colleges and you're anxiously waiting for their acceptance letters. And then you're maybe less anxiously waiting for those financial aid awards. But you're waiting nonetheless, because in a matter of month or two, they're going to start getting those envelopes. And you certainly hope they're going to get more thicker envelopes that usually mean your kids got accepted and they're going to get some money to help you pay for it. And so this topic, or this week's Financial Aid Wednesday, is all about your expected family contribution. And it's really designed to help families that have college bound seniors in high school right now. So if that's you, and despite how much you might want to unplug and enjoy some time off before the end of the year, please listen to this, because this can help save you thousands of dollars of financial aid, because this is really important. And the topic isn't just the importance of your EFC. We've already covered that ground many, many times. The more important thing that I want to talk about today is actually knowing your EFC before, and highlight before, financial aid offers start arriving from colleges. And the reason why is because colleges are actually going to be using your expected family contribution to put together your financial aid packet. So if your expected family contribution is going to be higher than it should be, well, you're going to get less financial aid. And the same thing is true in reverse. If your expected family contribution is lower, well, then you're going to get more money from colleges. And so it's really, really, really important. Did I say it's really important? Well, it's really important that colleges are going to get the right EFC number that is a true representation of your finances, that they're going to actually put together the right amount of financial aid for you and your family. And the reason I'm doing this right now is because in a matter of 2 to 3 months, I know my phone are going to be ringing off the hook, because every year for the last 10 years, the most panicked calls come around springtime. You know why? Well, it's because that's when kids start getting accepted into college. It's like, of course, if you've applied early action or early decision, you're going to hear those decisions earlier. Some people have already started getting them. But I'm talking about millions of kids that have applied regular decision, and come the spring, their parents are going to start freaking out because they're going to be looking at those financial aid awards, realizing, holy crap, we didn't get enough money. And it's a bigger chunk that we have to come out with out of pocket, because that's what colleges need us to pay in order for our students to actually start in the fall. And they go into full on freak out mode. That's when I get the calls. And the number one reason that usually happens, and the reason they didn't get enough financial aid, is because they probably made some small or maybe not so small mistake on the FAFSA, back in the fall when they filled out the form, and it resulted in a higher expected contribution. Colleges used that number to put together your financial award packet, and therefore you got less money because the information they got was wrong. And when parents come to me going like, what do we do now? I mean, of course we help them, but our back is up against the wall. There's just not a lot of time for us to do anything significant. And in some cases, we can help a little bit. But right now, if you're watching this, and I'm recording this on December 22nd, so if you're watching this between now and say the next couple of weeks, even before you get financial aid awards from colleges in February or even March, you've got all this time to actually do better. I mean, how cool is that? Because right now, the thing that you need to be most concerned with is figuring out if the FAFSA actually calculated the right EFC number for your family, because that's the number that has already been sent to colleges. And that's the number that they're going to use in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks to put together your financial aid package. So if they don't have the right number, you're not getting the right amount of financial aid. This is the time for you to look at your EFC, figure out if it's right. And if it's not, find the mistake, fix it mistake, and then let colleges know so that they can actually pull the right number and put together the right amount of financial aid. So let me show you what usually happens, and then I'll show you what you should do and how to do it. So give me a second. I'm going to share my screen. I'm a visual learner. I think a lot of you are too. It's always easier to look at pictures, at least it is for me. So look, here's what the common path to financial aid looks like. People and their kids, or people, kids are people too, parents and their kids usually submit their FAFSA sometime between October 1st, when their kids are seniors, and January, right? Which is literally just around the corner. So let's assume that you have already submitted your FAFSA. So like most people, what you're going to do is now wipe the brow or sweat off your brow because you just did a lot of work. You're going to enjoy the holidays and you're going to wait patiently or impatiently for colleges to start accepting your kids to college, and you're going to get their financial aid awards. That's step number 2. So that's exactly what I was saying, is that in step number 2, excuse me, that usually happens around February, March, sometimes even April. And you have to make a decision by May 1st where your kids are going to go to college, right? And make a commitment, write the check. Well, if you're going to get your financial aid awards in that step number 2, sometime in spring, February or March, you don't have a lot of time to then make any changes if you discover there's a mistake. And that's why I'm offering a better way. In fact, I would say it's the best path to financial aid. You just add 2 more little steps, and they're easy. They're not hard. I'm going to teach you how to do it, but I can't underscore the importance of these 2 steps. They're equally important as the other 2. So step number 2, after you submitted your FAFSA, is verify that your EFC was calculated correctly. Now, believe it or not, I still get a lot of questions from parents who say, wait a minute, what's my EFC, or what is the EFC? I'll mention it here because there's no judgment. I know this stuff is complicated and all these acronyms flying around, like that's all right. But the EFC is your expected family contribution. In other words, it's really the minimum amount of money that the government is going to expect you to pay for college. Now, that doesn't mean that that's all that you'll have to pay for college. That's just the minimum amount, because every single college is going to decide for themselves how they're actually going to give you the financial aid that you may be eligible for. Now, look, there's financial aid for very low income people, there's financial aid for mid income people, and there's financial aid for higher income people. We're not going to go into the details about the different types of financial aid. I'm just talking about the one thing that everybody has to do, which is submit the FAFSA and verify your EFC. And then the next step I'll talk about in a moment. So I'll teach you how to verify the EFC, but it's important because if it's not right, if it's too high, then colleges are not going to give you the money that you technically are eligible for. Step number 3 is just to lower your EFC, because if there's a mistake that's usually causing your EFC to be higher than it should be, you can fix it and then let colleges know, and you're done. So here's where you are right now. We're December 22nd, end of 2021, And if you've already applied, or if your kids applied to college and you've already submitted the financial aid forms, the thing that you got to do right now is just to verify that your EFC was calculated correctly, because the point of doing that is to ensure that in step number 4, when your kids get into college, they're going to get the best financial awards that you can possibly get and that you're eligible for. And the only way to do that is to make sure that your EFC is accurate. And if it's not, in step number 3, you bring it down. Does that make sense? If you got any questions, drop them in the comments, because this is critical. And it's like the number one thing that people miss. And of course, it drives them insane when they find out that they could have avoided or could have fixed this. I mean, I get calls even today asking like, how do I do this? So I'm going to show you how to do it, and I'll give you some examples. But the number one thing you got to know right now is just to take a moment. Literally, it'll take you 5 minutes and verify your EFC. You do that by logging back into your FAFSA and download something called the Student Aid Report. It's usually abbreviated as SAR. I'm going to show you what it looks like, but finding it is really easy. Just go to the FAFSA, log in, and find your student aid report. So when you download it, it's going to look like this. Now, this is a sample. It doesn't have anyone's personal sensitive information, but when you download your student aid report, it's going to have all of your information. Sorry, there's a question that came in. Hey, Wendy. Good question. How do you verify? That's exactly what we're doing right now. So timely question. So bear with me for just another second. I'll show you. So you download the student aid report. And then right here, I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor, but it's right above the sample. It says expected family contribution. And there's going to be a string of numbers. There's no dollar sign. There's no comma. There's no period. It just looks like a string of numbers. And people often miss it because they don't know what to look for. But that is the dollar amount that the government calculated that they think you should be able to pay for college. That's the minimum amount of money they're going to expect you to come out of your pocket. That's the number that's being sent to every college that your student has applied to. Now, in this example, that's reasonable for a lot of families. $7,220 per year. That's the number, the amount that colleges expect you to pay every year. Now, some families look at their expected family contribution and they discover that it's much higher. Maybe it's 20, 30, 40. I've seen families get $90,000 in their expected family contribution, and then their head just explodes. I'm like, what? Now, look, if your student gets into a college that costs $35,000, they're not going to expect you to pay 90. All that it means is that because the government expects you to pay up to $90,000, it basically means you shouldn't expect any financial aid from a college that costs $35,000, because they don't see you as being in need. And I got to tell you, I've seen so many families who went through this process, and when we actually go through the FAFSA, we realize they might have made a simple mistake that increased their EFC unnecessarily. And literally some of these examples are on our website. You go to pillar6college.com and you'll find plenty. I mean, like, there were instances where people who were business owners, small business owners, like regular folks like you and I that own a business, they accidentally reported the value of their business because that's what they thought they had to do. And all of a sudden, boom, their EFC shoots up through the roof and it's in the $100,000 range. We go back, we fix it, and it comes right down to where it should be. And it's around $25,000, $30,000. And they're like, well, I can afford that. But 90? How? Right? So number one is you got to figure out what is your expected family contribution. That's how you do it. You go to the student aid report. Then what if it's not right? Or what if it doesn't look right to you? Well, you're going to scroll down, and below is going to be every single question on the FAFSA that you answered, and you'll see your answers right next to it. So just make sure that everything is correct. Now, I think you can see my cursor. Let me know if you can't, please, in the comments. But if you can, the first half is just soft information. It's stuff about, you're a student and you as a parent, your address, your social security numbers, your date of birth. Like this kind of stuff seems to be uh, super simple and not things that people give any more thought to. But I got to tell you, there have been a lot of instances where people or their kids accidentally put in the wrong social security number just because they missed a digit, or if parents do it for themselves. And then when the government can't find a match in their records, the FAFSA doesn't get processed. And if it doesn't get processed, colleges don't give you any financial aid. So don't ignore these answers. Go through everything question by question, make sure it's all correct. And then eventually you're going to make your way to the parents' information and parent financials right here. Now, look, this is a sample, it's blank. Yours won't be, or at least it shouldn't be. If it is, there's a problem. But you want to go through and make sure that all of these questions were answered correctly. Some of the biggest areas of mistakes that I find are going to be right here between questions 88, 89, and 90. In 98, 88, the question is like, report the total amount of cash, savings, and checking accounts under the parents' names. This is pretty straightforward. Like people look at their bank statements and they report it, and that's it. But sometimes they end up over-reporting because if they had money that wasn't, or let's say money that wasn't in their name, it's in the name of their kids, or maybe it's money that was in the name of the parent, but they intended to give it to the kids. They don't put it here because they're like, well, it's for college, it's for our kids. We're going to report it later in the kids' savings and cash and checking accounts section. And that's a huge mistake because if it's in your name as the parent, regardless what it's aimed for, it should be reported here because the FAFSA is going to count less of it towards your EFC. And if you report that same amount under the kids' names, your EFC immediately goes up unnecessarily. When it comes to question 89, net worth of investments, most important word here is net. Net worth means subtracting all debts. Don't report the highest value you see on the statement. That's the best way to over-report, overshare, and you end up increasing your EFC. Same thing with value of small businesses. I can't tell you how many times small business owners make this mistake because they put the value of their business, they put the value of the assets that their business owns. And it's very clear in the FAFSA if you actually find it. And that's the problem. It's hard to find. But if you employ less than 100 employees, the FAFSA does not want you to report the value of your business. So don't. So anyways, there are a lot of things that people can do to accidentally cause their EFC to spike. And I have some other recordings that talk about all those mistakes. And if you want to find them, by all means, look through the thread on Facebook or on YouTube. Or if you've got a question or if you want me to just send it to you, just let me know in the comments and I'll send you that video so you don't make the same mistakes. But anyways, this is how you review to make sure everything was done correctly. And if you find something that is incorrect or seems incorrect, or if you learned something from this conversation that makes you want to go back and review and change some of these things, you'll see it when you log into the FAFSA. There's going to be a way for you to edit or to make corrections to the FAFSA. So it's that simple. You'll click edit, you'll find the section, find the question, and then change your answer, and then resubmit the FAFSA, wait another few days, and then log back in and download another updated version of this student aid report, and you should see a new EFC that was calculated, a truer EFC and a more accurate EFC. And then you'll know that when colleges download this data, they're going to get the right number. That's why it's so critical that you verify your EFC before colleges put together their financial aid packet and send it to you. I'll mention one more thing, and that is, if you're watching a replay of this and it's no longer December 22nd, maybe it's January 22nd, maybe it's February 22nd, and you just are about to pull your hair out going, oh my God, what do I do now? Because colleges have already downloaded all the data. So even if you go back and change your FAFSA, they're not going to pull it again. They're already going to be working off of the old, incorrect, high EFC numbers. So, what do you do if that's you? What if you're watching this 2 months from now? It's not game over. Still make the changes right here, but then do one extra step, and that is reach out to those colleges directly. Call their financial aid office and say, hey, we just realized that we had made an error on our FAFSA months ago, but I just figured this out and we've updated it. It's changed our EFC. Here it is. Could you please consider this? And you probably are going to end up doing that as part of your financial aid appeal. So don't worry about sort of running out of runway, but be concerned that you don't give yourself enough time. Or, in other words, don't wait until the last minute, because eventually you will run out of a runway and there won't be anything you can do. The other thing I want to mention for all of you who say, well, Roman just gave us the permission slip to just wait to deal with this until after the holidays. That's not what I'm saying. And I hope you don't think that, because financial aid gets given out on a first come, first served basis. I've talked about this many, many times. Now, loans technically are going to be available forever. You don't have to worry about running out of a chance of getting a loan. If you want to go into debt, the government's going to help you. But if you want free money, if you want scholarships or grants, tuition discounts, like dollars that will help you pay for college, that you never have to borrow, you never have to pay back, there's a limited supply. And once it goes, it's gone. So if you come in for that financial aid appeal too late in the game and the colleges have already given out the money, the only thing you can expect would be loans. And so please don't take too much time in verifying your EFC, changing it if you find a mistake, and then appealing to the colleges directly for more financial aid. Do that as soon as possible. If you can do it now, and you will be in far better shape than everybody else that waits. With that being said, if you want some help, we can help you, because I realize that some of this stuff is confusing, it's overwhelming, and you just might not have the time and you might not want to do this. So we can help you. And if you want that help, check out this website, checkmyaid.com. We put together a very simple to use form. So once you go through the form, I'm going to ask you to do two simple things. Number one, I'm going to ask you to download your student aid report and then answer some questions online. Once you do that, we will review your student aid report. We're going to review your FAFSA, and we're going to tell you if you made any mistakes. We're also going to tell you if you missed anything that's important. We're also going to tell you if there's other financial aid that you should qualify for that you didn't apply for. And we're going to tell you how to apply for it, or how to fix the mistakes, and what to do to make sure that you get the biggest financial aid awards when your kids get into college. So if you want some help, go check out don't check out my aid. They're just going to confuse people. Go to www.checkmyaid.com and see if it's right for you. It's literally the best investment you'll make to get the highest return on your money, because in most cases, we find at least a couple of $1,000s of financial aid that would have been missed, which pays for it tenfold. But even for those families, if it's less, the amount of peace of mind and it's going to give you is probably worth the money. So go check that out, and I hope it helps you. But without any additional detail that might confuse you, please, if you already applied for financial aid, and if you've got a student who's waiting to get accepted to college, review your EFC right now. Don't wait. Don't delay. And here's some of the most common mistakes to look for. Some people complete the FAFSA, but they just forget to hit the final submit button, or they forget to apply their e-signature, and the FAFSA gets completed but never filed. So therefore, colleges will never get the EFC, and they will assume that you don't need financial aid because you didn't apply. So they're going to send you a bill for the entire amount. The second are input errors. We've already talked about this. Putting in the wrong number, putting in the wrong sequence, putting in extra numbers. Number 3 is leaving blank fields. Don't leave blank fields. Put a 0. If something doesn't apply to you, put a 0, because if you don't, the system can calculate completely different EFC. The 4th biggest mistake I see is people don't put all the colleges that their kids are applying to. Remember, colleges will only put together your financial aid packet is if they download your FAFSA and see the expected contribution. If they don't get the EFC, then they'll assume that you don't need financial aid. Number 5, over-reporting. This happens commonly when people put in, values for their investments or their business or their home higher than it should, and that results in a higher expected contribution. And number 6 is it just calculates a much higher EFC. I suppose that's not a mistake, that's an outcome. So ignore this. And bottom line is, find those 5 mistakes if you have them, fix them, resubmit the FAFSA, get the new correct lower EFC, and you will get higher financial aid. If you want some help, go to checkmyaid.com and we will personally help you. You'll have a professional financial aid advisor going through all of your numbers so you can rest assured that nothing will be missed. And in most cases, we'll find other areas that you can get financial aid from, and we'll tell you about them because you might have missed it. All right, looks like I've got another question. All right, Wendy, good question. Is a federal Pell Grant FAFSA, or are they two separate things? You're absolutely correct. They're one and the same. The only way to get a federal Pell Grant is to submit the FAFSA. And Pell Grant is based entirely on the EFC. If your expected family contribution goes up $1 over the Pell Grant eligibility threshold, it phases out. So it's incremental, and then once you reach that threshold, it's gone. So it's so important to make sure that if you think you can qualify for a Pell Grant, that you bring that EFC down as much as you can, because the more you do it, the more of a Pell Grant you're going to get. Awesome question. Thanks for asking it. Let's see. Let me see if I've got any other questions. I'm going to put this back up because at the end of the day, knowing your EFC before getting financial aid offers is what we're after. And this is the reason why I'm doing this today, to give you the next couple of months to figure this out as much as possible. So you can review them, you can find the mistakes if there are any, and ultimately look for any other missed opportunities on the financial aid form. Wendy, any other questions? You were asking some really good questions today. That's awesome. I'm sure there are a lot of folks that will benefit from your questions and the answers as well. All right. Well, listen, I'm not going to hold you here any longer than I have to. Hopefully this has been helpful for you. I'm on here every Wednesday taking a topic apart that helps families get more financial aid than they would have otherwise to make college more affordable. So if you've got questions, show up live, just like Wendy did. Ask them, you'll get your answers. And if you don't feel comfortable asking a question, direct message me or send me an email. It's roman@pillar6college.com. And if you're watching a replay, just keep putting the comments, because I and a member of my team are going to continue going through these posts and seeing any of your comments. We'll answer them to the best of our abilities. And if you want some help, reach out to us. We can help you one-on-one, confidentially, privately, and quickly, so you don't have to do this all on your own, because you're not alone. We're here to help. And with that, if this is helpful, hit like, let me know, share with other friends that might have kids heading to college. Hopefully this will help them as well. Happy holidays. Hope you get some time off, enjoy some family time together, and we'll be back live in front with all the new updates in January. I'll probably do another Facebook Live before the end of the year, but wishing you all the very best this holiday season. Stay healthy, be well, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.